I suppose I didn't need the gavel. Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the January 9th, 2014 meeting of the school board for the city of Danville. We appreciate you all coming out this evening. I will call the meeting to order and we'll move right to our roll call.
Ms. Bryant? Here. Dr. Campbell?
Present.
Mrs. Hall? Ms. Hughes?
Here.
Reverend Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Bolton?
Here.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Here. Next item up would be the approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting. What is your pleasure?
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Ms. Bolton and Dr. Campbell to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? Then let's call the roll, please.
Okay. Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Reverend Wilson?
Yes.
Next up would be the approval of the minutes. We have 3 sets of minutes. The December 5th regular meeting, December 19th discipline meeting, and the December 20th work session, all in 2013. That is a approval action item. What is your...
Go ahead. Go ahead. Mr. Chair, move that we approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second, Dr. Campbell and Ms. Hughes, to approve these 3 sets of minutes. Any discussion? And let's go ahead with the roll call.
Okay. Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Reverend Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
That brings us to our awards and recognitions this evening. And for the very first one here, we're going to be honoring one of our newest employees. Wasn't even with us when we started this school year. Ms. Melanie Stowe, our new Director of Outreach and Communications, has received a recognition in a professional organization at the state level. And I'm going to ask Dr. Newsom to tell us a little bit about that and then give her a chance to tell us about the work she's doing with that group.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Paul Hamus, members of the board. I'd like to formally recognize Ms. Melanie Stowe in her appointment as Secretary for the Board of Directors for the Virginia Association of School Curriculum Development. It is a part of a national organization that really is on the cutting edge on curriculum reform and development in the country. And it's a very exciting position. We're very happy to have one of our staff members representing the state of Virginia, in addition to Danville Public Schools. So I'd like Melanie to come forth and tell you a little bit about her recognition.
Thank you. It is an honor to represent Danville Public Schools and the state of Virginia by serving on the board and as secretary for the Virginia ASCD. I'm going to speak on behalf of the ASCD. We have over 2,000 members in the state of Virginia. This consists of superintendents, administrators, teachers. We have several active student chapters, and those will be our future teachers and our future principals and our future superintendents. And we work very closely. We collaborate. Everything that we ask our students to do in the classroom and that we ask teachers to do and principals to do as an organization at the state level, that's what we do. We work together because we recognize that public education changes the world and that we all do that together, not in silos. So it is an honor to serve them and to represent Danville in that capacity. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members about this honor and responsibility that she has undertaken?
We're very proud of you. Yes.
Then thank you so much, Ms. Stowe.
Thank you.
Next up is a recognition of the principals and bookkeepers from those schools who have managed to keep their financial records in superb shape during the past year. And Dr. Osborne and Ms. Cassida will be making this presentation.
When we had our administrative retreat this summer, one of the things we were asked to do is to say a song that was representative of what was going on. And of course, my song was "I'm So Excited" by the Pointer Sisters. And one of the very reasons, and I know Ms. Cassida thinks that finance is dry, but one of the very reasons I'm so excited is what we get to do tonight. Everywhere you look, you read articles about school systems and about money problems and money issues. And I'm happy to say we have done very well once again. Tonight you will hear from Ms. Hughes, and she will talk about our audit report and a goodly piece of the success every year of our audit report, as it represents how we manage money in Danville Public Schools, is because of the folks who are being recognized tonight. If they only did one thing, it would still be great. But every year I remind you and the listening public that they do many things, and they do many things well. And this is one opportunity that we have to recognize them for showing the public in a very deliberate, considered, and consistent way that we are good stewards of the money that comes to us. So what I would like to do now is to recognize school principals, school principals, and their bookkeepers for excellence in financial management. We will start with Forest Hills Elementary School. Principal Ms. Catherine Lassiter, bookkeeper Ms. Huss McPherson, for 1 year of excellence in financial management. One of our baby schools, and I don't mean baby in terms of the age of the children, although it is young, the Northside Preschool. They've had one opportunity to be excellent in financial management, and they brought it home. Principal Ms. Lou Ann Long, bookkeeper Ms. Sally Rossi. Galileo High School, 1 year of excellence in financial management. Principal Jay Lancaster, bookkeeper Ms. Barbara Sexton. W.W. Moore Education Center, 1 year of excellence in financial management. Principal Ms. Pat Davis, bookkeeper Ms. Lily Jacob. This is their first year of having a school activity fund, and they brought it in. 3 years for excellence in financial management. Johnson Elementary School, Principal Tanya Jackson, bookkeeper Ms. Sonia McLaughlin. Four years for excellence in financial management. Park Avenue Elementary School, Principal Ms. Melissa Newton, bookkeeper Ms. Joanne Neighbors. Bonner Middle School, 6 years of excellence in financial management. Principal Ms. Daphne Wall, bookkeeper Ms. Janice Harris. Seven years of excellence in financial management. Westwood Middle School, Principal Ms. Christy Dawson, bookkeeper Patricia Gunn. Our Adult Education Center, 8 years of excellence in financial management. Administrator, Ms. Jackie Rochford. Bookkeeper, Ms. Crystal Eccles. And the remainder of our schools have achieved excellence in financial management since we have been giving these recognitions. 9 years. That is a really wonderful accomplishment. George Washington High School, 9 years of excellence in financial management. Principal, Mr. Withers Jackson. Bookkeepers, Ms. Janet Scott and Ms. Joanne Wright. Nine years of excellence in financial management. Langston Focus School Principal, Ms. Jocelyn Fitzgerald. Bookkeeper, Ms. Huey Crawley. And I will tell you something. Woodrow Wilson Elementary School closed. However, these same two individuals, Ms. Jocelyn Fitzgerald and Ms. Huey Crawley, also achieved excellence in financial management for Woodrow for last year. That's a big deal. Grove Park Preschool, 9 years, excellence in financial management. Principal, Dr. Sandra Andrews. Bookkeeper, Ms. Sally Rossman. Schofield Elementary School, 9 years of excellence in financial management. Principal, Darlene Logan. Bookkeeper, Ms. Karen Merricks. Woodbury Hills Elementary School, 9 years of excellence in financial management. Principal, Ms. Judy Cox. Bookkeeper, Ms. Nicole Toomer. Glenwood Elementary School closed. However, they achieved 9 years of excellence in financial management. Gibson Middle School closed. They also received an award for excellence in financial management for 9 years. Gibson Middle School. And last but not least, Taylor Elementary School closed. They also received the award for 9 years of excellence in financial management. And coincidentally, the principal and bookkeeper of our new Gibson Elementary School were those two same folks who shepherded Taylor Elementary through 9 years of excellence in financial management. So the bar is set high. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Osborne. It is wonderful to be able to recognize these dedicated employees who have watched every nickel of the monies that come their way and made absolutely certain that they are used in precisely the way that they are intended to be used. That is tremendous, and I trust that the public will appreciate how well that job is being done in every school, every year. Thank you all. That will also be a piece of the report that we'll have later when we receive the audit reports. So we will hear a little bit more about things then. We now move to a recognition, the Virginia School Principals Week. designated for this current week, January 5th through 11th. And Ms. Smith is going to make that presentation.
Good afternoon, or good evening. In honor of our Virginia Schools Principals Week, we have asked our school principals and our assistant principals to come tonight on behalf of this honor, on behalf of our governor for the state of Virginia. We in Danville Public Schools are very proud and honored for the hard work that you do. And we always say that the principals and the assistant principals both are the administrators in the building. So we would like for both principals of all schools to please stand at this time for all 14 Danville Public Schools. If you will please stand with your principals and your assistant principals to be recognized. We appreciate all the hard work that you do every day. We know that it is a commitment on your behalf to make sure that our students get the best world-class education, and we appreciate everything that you do from our pre-K all the way to our high schools. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. And we have the actual certificate of recognition from Governor McDonnell, and our board has on the consent agenda this evening an endorsement of this certificate. So at this point, I'm going to read it so that anyone who has any doubts will understand exactly how important the principals and assistant principals are to these educational endeavors. School Principals Week. Whereas achieving academic excellence requires that principals work cooperatively to direct, develop, and inspire all members of the school staff and student body, and to communicate effectively with parents to engage them in the learning process. And whereas principals are the instructional leaders of the school who seek to provide levels of accountability based on rigor, relevance, and relationships in the curriculum that permeate throughout the school community. And whereas principals serve as educational leaders, responsible for managing the policies, regulations, and procedures necessary to ensure that all students are supervised in a safe and effective learning environment that maintains the standards of excellence expected in Virginia's public and private schools. And whereas parents and guardians are ultimately responsible for their children's education, principals and teachers are entrusted with the opportunity and the responsibility of guiding, directing, nurturing, mentoring, and imparting knowledge to these children while they are at school. And whereas principals must work cooperatively with teachers, staff, students, parents, and the community at large to proactively prepare students to be self-reliant and productive citizens. And whereas principals work diligently to maintain continuous academic progress in all of Virginia's schools, seeking to make the most productive use of available resources, striving to encourage and facilitate the pursuit of excellence by both teachers and students, and communicating regularly with parents and the community, all in an effort to make positive differences in the lives of our young citizens. Now therefore, I, Robert F. McDonnell, do hereby recognize January 5 through 11, 2014 as School Principals Week in our Commonwealth of Virginia, and I call this observance to the attention of all our citizens. We appreciate the governor putting out that recognition for some very important players in the process of education that we all value so greatly. We will then be taking action to endorse this certificate of recognition as part of our agenda in just a few more minutes. We now move to another recognition, and that is January of 2014 has been proclaimed as Bullying Prevention Month. And we have a document here that we again will be endorsing later. This document comes from the Virginia School Board Association for consideration by each board across the Commonwealth. Whereas school bullying has become an increasingly significant problem in the United States and in Virginia. And whereas each year, almost 30% of the youth in the United States are estimated to be involved in bullying, either as a bully or as a victim. And whereas every day, an estimated 160,000 students in kindergarten through 12th grade miss school due to a fear of being bullied. And whereas bullying can take many forms, including verbal, physical, and most recently in cyberspace, and can happen in many places on and off school grounds. And whereas it is important for Virginia parents, students, teachers, and school administrators to be aware of bullying and to encourage discussion of the problem as a school community. And whereas the Virginia School Boards Association has developed a model policy on anti-bullying to encourage positive behaviors and to eliminate bullying behaviors. Now therefore, the Virginia School Boards Association recognizes the month of January 2014 as the VSBA Bullying Prevention Month, with the intention that the issue of bullying and its prevention be discussed in Virginia schools and classrooms during that time. I will be happy to sign that along with the superintendent once the board has endorsed it a little later this evening. We now have one more recognition this evening, and Dr. Osborne's going to take care of this one for our transportation services staff.
Stand back from the yellow and black is the theme for school bus safety in 2013-14. Each year we're reminded about the importance of safety both inside the school bus and outside the school bus as it travels from nearly 500,000 yellow school buses. They transport our children safely to and from school each day. Danville Public Schools utilizes 55 buses to transport an average of 3,000 students each day. Our buses complete over 300 routes each day, traveling 640,000 miles on average in one school year. Wow. Yes. Our drivers and our transportation services staff work tirelessly to provide safe and secure transport for our children. And this is one of the times we can recognize their responsible and careful work. Please join me tonight in recognizing them and publicly saying to our bus drivers and our transportation services staff a big thank you for their dedication to our students and our families of Danville Public Schools. I would like to ask anyone on transportation services staff, bus driver, office staff, director, to please stand so that we can publicly recognize them.
Times around the equator.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate everything that the Transportation Department does on a day-to-day basis throughout the school year. It just seems so appropriate that this particular week we have you here in our presence with all the issues of dealing with 8 degrees one morning. Oh heavens, I cannot imagine having to be up trying to get a diesel bus started before dawn in single-digit temperatures. We do appreciate everything that you do every day to keep the students safe and to get them to their places of learning and back to their homes. Let's see here. We now move to, I jumped around, let me see here. Okay, let's go soon. I think we're ready now for public comments. There was a sign-up sheet back there, and when we checked just before the meeting started, no one had signed up, but that is not a requirement. So if there is anyone who would like to address the school board this evening on any topic, we would invite you to come to the lectern and address us at this point. Seeing none, then we will move right along. Thank you so much. That brings us then to the consent item agenda. We have the Discipline Hearing and Review Board recommendations, and then we have the endorsement of the Virginia School Principals Week proclamation and the Bullying Prevention Month resolution. I've already heard that there are 2 discipline cases that we would like to pull for consideration during closed session this evening. Those cases are 084 and 091. Are there any other items requested for pulling from the consent agenda? All right, then a motion to approve the consent agenda items with the exception of those 2 discipline cases would be in order.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Second.
We have a motion from Reverend Wilson with a second from Dr. Campbell to approve the consent items with the 2 discipline cases accepted. Any discussion on that? Then you may call the roll.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Reverend Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Thank you so much. That then brings us to an action item from Human Resources on personnel recommendations. Dr. Jennings will be the presenter.
Thank you, Dr. Paul Hammons, and good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The Department of Human Resources has prepared for your review and hopefully your approval 8 personnel recommendations this evening. As you take a look at the cases, I'll point out that the cases ending in 06 and 07 are new positions that you approved in your work session when you looked at additional use of budget funds, and we wanted you to know that we've actually been able to go ahead and secure persons, and we are very pleased with the individuals we were able to find, very highly qualified for those positions. I'd be happy to respond to any questions you might have. Otherwise, we respectfully request your approval. Yes.
Could you give us a little bit more information about 03 and 04?
A little more information.
Resignation, and you request that we accept it. Are there extenuating circumstances?
Certainly. Our superintendent reviewed each case, and this is why you see his recommendation is to accept each. We are also in positions to replace each of these teachers. The principal of the school has already begun the interview process, and we have individuals ready to come aboard.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the recommendations as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the personnel recommendations as presented. That was Ms. Hughes making the motion and Ms. Bolton on the second. Any discussion? Then let's go ahead and call the roll.
Okay. Reverend Wilson?
Yes.
Mrs. Bolton?
Yes.
Mrs. Bryant?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes. Thank you very much, Dr. Jennings. All right, let's see here. We now move down to the action item, actually from the school board, from our Finance and Audit Committee. And so for that, we'll be turning to Ms. Hughes, who's chairing that committee this year.
Yes. Thank you. I would just first like to say thank you to all of the people who made this first year in this position for me very easy, because at this time I do not have to start this report by saying what had happened was it was a very good report. The resounding theme, as you heard, was excellence in financial management. All the schools did a very good job. We had a 51-page financial audit that was presented to us, and a 33-page activity fund summary that was presented to us. And I hope you will forgive me for not going through that page by page. I do have the summary, the nuts and bolts of what was presented to us by Dixon, Hughes, and Goodman, LLP. The report on compliance with Commonwealth of Virginia laws, regulations, contracts, and grants. To the School Board of Danville Public Schools. We have audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities, each major fund, and aggregated remaining fund information of Danville Public Schools as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2013, and the related notes of the financial statements, which collectively comprise the Danville Public Schools basic financial statements, and have issued our report thereon dated October 14th, 2013. We conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America, the standards applicable in financial audits contained in government auditing standards issued by the Comptroller General of the United States, and specifications for audits of counties, cities, and towns issued by the Auditor of Public Accounts in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Those standards require that we plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the basic financial statements are free of material misstatements, compliance, and other matters. As part of obtaining reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatements, we perform tests of the Danville Public Schools compliance with certain provisions of the Commonwealth of Virginia's laws, regulations, contracts, and grants, non-compliance with which have a direct and material effect on the determination of financial statement amounts. However, the objective of our audit of the basic financial statements was not to provide an opinion on overall compliance with such provisions, and accordingly, we do not express such an opinion. The following is a summary of the Commonwealth of Virginia's laws, regulations, contracts, and grants for which we perform tests of compliance. The Code of Virginia State Agency requirements, budget and appropriated laws, retirement and education, cash and investment procurement, conflicts of interest, unclaimed property. The results of our test disclosed no instances of noncompliance with the provisions referred to in the preceding paragraph, which basically means everything checked out just fine. And I am pleased to report that to the board. There was nothing that gave us any cause for alarm. If anyone on the board has any questions, I'd be more than happy to direct you to Dr. Osborne.
That was good.
Who will in turn probably turn it to Ms. Castle. Are there any questions for the staff on the audit? All right, well, we want to thank Ms. Hughes and that committee for receiving the audit reports. And this is an action item to approve the audit reports. So what is your pleasure?
So Chair, I move that we accept the auditor's report.
Second.
Thank you, Reverend Wilson. Dr. Campbell. We have a motion to approve the audit reports for the year end June 30th, 2013. Is there any discussion? Then let's go ahead and vote.
Okay. Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.
Ms. Hall? Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Reverend Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Thank you all, and thank you again, Ms. Hughes, and please pass those thanks along to the committee and to the staff here in the central office who didn't get an award today, but did just as well as those folks out in the schools who did pick up the awards this evening. The next item on our agenda is a communication item, actually from the school board members ourselves. It's the report from the 2013 Virginia School Boards Association Annual Conference held in November. So, Ms. Hughes, would you like to kick that one off?
Sure, thank you so much. More than happy to. I first went to the early bird session in Williamsburg. It was on improving college readiness through dual enrollment. We know that's an issue here in Danville that we've picked up and we've been dealing with for a while. It examined both the pros and the cons of dual enrollment. Some of the pros that were addressed were the fact that students may be more likely to persist and graduate within 6 years if they have high school courses or college credits when they graduate from high school already. It also helps underprepared students to learn how to be college students while still in high school. And the biggest plus is it enables high school students who are from low-income families to have a better chance at attending and getting a college degree. That is the biggest plus for us, and it was definitely a big component for a lot of the people who were in that focus group that I did go participate in from the other parts of the state of Virginia. Some of the cons or the downside, one of the small ones was that sometimes there's a difficulty in figuring out what courses a potential college is going to take, whether they're going to take it as a full college credit course or whether they're just going to take it as an elective credit or whatever. So those can be kind of confusing depending on what college you're trying to apply to, the student is trying to apply to. One of the biggest downsides, and a lot of times we don't think about it as much, is that some students, after it's all said and done, after going through this sort of concentrated coursework, will suddenly look back and say, well, I think I missed something of my high school experience or part of my college experience by concentrating and focusing so hard. And I think sometimes we might tend to overlook that, and I think that's the biggest downside if we have children or young adults who come out with all this accomplishment but still feeling that they missed something in the long run. But all in all, the biggest thing that I was very proud of is the fact that when you look at the percentages of students across the state of Virginia that other districts have participating in the dual enrollment, whether it be IB or advanced placement classes or whatever, Danville Public Schools are right there at the front of the bell curve in relation to other parts of the state of Virginia, and that made me feel kind of good that we are still we're in the mix with everyone else. So that was good for it. The next thing that I participated in was blended learning environments, how schools are using blended learning to increase achievement and engagement. The VSBA has a virtual learning task force, and they were the ones that hosted this particular session. It was participated in or led by Campbell County Public Schools, representatives from Newport News City Schools, and Virginia Beach City Schools. The interesting thing is that one of the systems chose to undertake the blended environments due to a lack of highly qualified teachers to fill positions. And I know sometimes we do have a problem attracting highly qualified teachers to Danville for one reason or another. But we're working on it. We know that our Human Resources Department is always doing their best to do that. But this one particular system had blended a social studies class with an English class, for example. The virtual learning classrooms were very interesting the way they adopted those. They have a teacher teaching in one building and they project to another building, and the teacher is teaching at the same time in real time in both buildings. They have cameras and monitors and microphones in the other classroom so that the teacher can actually see when a student has a question and they're raising their hands and they can actually respond to the questions at that time. I thought that was very interesting. In Newport News, they have seniors taking online government courses. They start with real teachers in the real classroom setting for the first quarter, and then at the second quarter, they have the option of going and taking their classes online if they feel that they're comfortable enough with things. So, and then another one of the systems had CTE students who were able to take their finance courses online as an option. And they did say that the multimedia classrooms were not a threat to teacher jobs. And they also have provided a great deal of support for teachers who did decide to undertake the teaching online courses and everything, to give them support so that they would feel comfortable being able to do that sort of thing and learning how to manage teaching in the virtual classroom settings as well. So that was my other session, one of the other sessions that I went to, I thought was very interesting, and maybe we could get more into that in Danville. The third one was the challenge of the urban and rural school districts. And of course, our district is more of an urban setting, and the biggest thing that I was interested in is what makes us urban, and what are the challenges, what are people doing about the challenges of an urban district. And of course, the challenges in our district are like everyone else's. The housing, the percentage of students under the poverty level are considered at risk, and we know that statistics show that students who move around a lot, we have more trouble addressing their problems, their educational needs. And I was really excited about the fact that we've talked about trying to align the grade levels here in Danville Public Schools to where that the same types of structure, there's the same structure among grade levels that's going to be taught in the subjects or whatever, so that it doesn't matter where a student lands. If they move once or twice in a year, there'll still be the same type of thing being taught, no matter what school they land in. So hopefully, if they're having some deficiencies, they will be addressed the same way in whatever school they land in. I think that'll be a great progress toward meeting the children's needs here in Danville Public Schools. The fourth one that I went to is something called We're Ready. It was presented by Newport News. We're ready in a way of preparing all students for college, career, and citizenship. They deal a lot with achievement of students and advancement and youth development. Of course, they deal with things like getting children to pass the SOLs and the graduation rate, and youth development is a big thing with what they're doing. And teaching children how to be critical thinkers and not just how to regurgitate things that are on an SOL test. They have actually youth development lead teachers in the schools, in each schools in the system. They have community partners, and they have career breakfasts and career clubs, and they do shadowing programs with members of the community. They're also doing high school credits for middle school students in this district. They have something that Dr. Paul Hamus would like. It's called an algebra pipeline to make sure that students stay on task as far as being able to keep those algebra skills and math skills straight, so they can go on. They also talked a lot about the government's Youth Development Academy, and they said that has become a wonderful resource for them as well, as far as being able to get things going and keeping children active and helping engage students and getting them ready. And of course, they have community leaders who are there, who partner with them. And I know a lot of leaders in industry in Danville already do this sort of thing, where they let students come in or are willing to do that. And so I think that's something else that we're going to continue to do in the future. And so I look forward to that. So those are the things that I enjoyed.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Hughes. Reverend Wilson, would you like to go next?
Yes, I too attended an early bird, and the one thing I like, because what I have done this before, it dealt with the whole matter of the media. In a number of divisions, one person is designated to be the speaker, but other divisions, whosoever will, let them speak. But whoever is the speaker, or whoever speaks, that person should know that he or she is in control, not the reporter. You're in control. If you get a call, you might be eating dinner or whatever on the phone, or doing whatever, they call you, you're not obligated to speak to them at that point. Why? Because 9 to 1, you're not ready. So you should be able to tell them, call me back later. You should say to them, well, what is this all about? Whom else have you called? And questions like those, it all boils down, you are in control. You are orchestrating this. Because there are times, and what I'm saying, they have done research on this, I'm only repeating what was said, that in many instances, reporters ask questions that they know you can't answer. Why? I don't know, but one thing, they are concerned more about their constituents or their people in the community than they are with you. So they know you're not able to answer questions, but they ask them anyhow. They, as I said before, they ask questions that the community and particular groups in the community would want to know. If you feel that you are going to be contacted, feel free to write down what you're going to say. Because the average person, there are some fear factors involved. No matter how often you've been doing it, how long, you're still fearful in a point. Your throat might get dry. Don't be afraid to stop and get a drink of water. You know? Or suck a lozenge or something of that nature. Because you can start stumbling and starting over again. And then you might say, oh, well, I didn't say that. Well, you did say that. And many times they report it whether you said it or not. But when it all boils down, as I said before, a whole lot very interesting, and I've been to several of these. But basically, you in control. You are orchestrating that process and not necessarily the reporter. Another one I attended, a very interesting one, dealt with this matter of the timeline of school desegregation in Virginia. And I'm reading something here. It's in 1951, African American students led by 16-year-old Barbara Jones walked out of Rooster Morton High School in Farmville to protest the school's poor condition. Student NAACP attorney Oliver Hill and Spotswood Robinson filed a lawsuit in federal court to demand integration instead of equal schools. Their case became the landmark case Brown against Board of Education, Topeka, Kansas. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled in 1954 that the separate but equal in public school is unconstitutional. And why did they do this? For several reasons. Segregated schools were rarely equal. Black students had poor buildings, poor textbooks, and facilities compared to white students. White teachers were paid on an average 3 times as much as black teachers in 1915. NAACP lawyers began filing suits in federal court in the 1930s for equal teacher pay and schools. Lawsuits helped to improve all levels of school for African American, but education still remains unequal. Now here is the young lady who was one of the first ones. I think she was 16 years old then. Still good looking, but a little different now after many years. And if I'm not mistaken, she's a professor at Virginia State, if I'm not mistaken. She's going around the country giving speeches. She'd be glad to come to any groups or organization who would have her to speak. But you're talking about back then, but there was another young lady, her co-leader, probably 35 years old at the most, to say to us that the segregation is not over. It's done in more sophisticated ways, but it's a long way to go, and we should tell our young people these stories. Because some of the things we say to them now, they think you're kidding. Oh man, that couldn't happen. No. And so we should tell these things to them, so they'll know from whence we have come, which they have no idea of what they are dealing with. And these 2 young ladies will say they'd be glad to come and talk to any groups, any organization at any number of time. And very hurriedly, I went to the one on an analysis of religious exemption from compulsory school attendance in Virginia. Very interesting, and I'm glad to say that we haven't had a whole lot of problem here since the time I've been on the board. We must be doing something right. But by the same token, they're saying that school board members, the best quality they could possess is knowing the law. Because there are some things that could take place that the members don't know, and the school board could do some things they didn't mean to do, but it's not right. and the emphasis is on knowing the law. Virginia is the only state in the nation that does not require any education for children receiving religious exemptions from compulsory school attendance. And more than 7,000 children a year may be currently subject to these exemptions. It's something way above me. I do some statistics that I just didn't know about, but the state of Virginia, this seems to be something unique. But here again, the law is involved. And I remember several years ago, I'm talking some things maybe I shouldn't be mentioning, but we had to deal with one case. They were saying to us that you should differentiate between what people call religion and just a group of sociologists, children get together talking about something. Sure, you have to exempt them, or you should exempt them, but be sure what you exempt them. Make sure it's a religious group. It doesn't necessarily have to be connected to an organized group or a body that goes up and down the scale, but be sure it's organized and not just somebody quoting some scriptures and applying that to sociology and philosophy and psychology. And here again, it's incumbent upon board members to know the law and be prepared to deal with these kinds of things at all times on all occasions. So there are several others that I attended and I really appreciated them, but since there are others, I'll stop there. I may come back if need be.
Thank you, Reverend Wilson. Let's go down to the other end of the table. Ms. Bryant?
Ms. Bryant did not attend, and I just now got your email. I think Ms. Hall is the one you probably meant.
I was thinking you were there.
Well, I may have been.
In spirit, it was Ms. Hall.
I may recall a year earlier.
You were there in spirit. We got text messages.
Yes, you did.
But let's move to Dr. Campbell.
Well, I will not elaborate on all of the ones I attended because some of the ones I was with some of my colleagues. I will mention one. And the one that I did attend, this particular one dealt with how to decide hiring a superintendent. And it just so happened that one of the facilitators was our chairman, Dr. Paul Hamus, and I guess it was a pleasant experience because there were so many divisions who were looking for a superintendent and couldn't get one. I mean, they were trying for years, and many of them almost every 2 years they were looking for a new superintendent. So as I was in that particular session listening to those individuals trying to get a superintendent, it was a breath of fresh air to know that we were able to get such a qualified, bona fide superintendent to come and to work in our division. So thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Newsom. Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Chair did a good job, didn't he? You
Mr.
told
Chair.
me.
Yes, he did. Very
That's what I
proud.
heard. That's what I
Ms.
heard.
Bolton, you're up next.
Okay, I attended the Southern Region Business Meeting. I had been on the task force of which we were trying to make these regional meetings more meaningful. So they did have an agenda, and it was much more to this meeting than it had been in the past. And our spring meeting is going to be in South Hill, April 30th, so everybody can put that on your calendar. Hopefully people can attend that. I also went to the education law update. Now, you talk about technical. Now, I did bring 2 copies of these lawsuits that have been brought against schools, and I'll give one to administration and one to you, Mr. Spencer, so you can have a copy of that. That's about all I'm going to say about that. That was kind of over my head. But I also went to the General Assembly update, which we will be going and talking with Danny Marshall after they give us a more updated
when we go to Richmond, but I know that this Opportunity Educational Institution, VSBA is violently opposed to that, as well as the A through F school grading thing. They're opposed to that as well, so we will be lobbying against both of those bills if they have survived by the time we get there. One of the sessions I went to was between school board and superintendent relationships, and it was Williamsburg, and they had just been through the process. At the beginning of it was kind of about what we had just done. So that wasn't that meaningful to me, except the one point that they made, which I thought was very interesting, was that the time before that they were not happy, they had used a search firm. This time they had used the VSBA services, as we had, and had the same results. So I thought that was very interesting that we were not that happy last time, and they were very happy this time. They also had done a retreat where they put up sticky notes, and they wanted everybody to say the things that they liked and the things that they would like to see changed. And the real thing that I thought was great, I've got the website that we could get a copy of this. They have a standard operating procedures document. And in this standard operating procedure document, they talk about, it spells out the school board's responsibilities, the superintendent's responsibilities. It's updated every year. It talks about how the school board evaluates itself. It talks about what the board does, what the superintendent does, who does what the powers and responsibilities of the board are, what the advisory committees of the board are. Another thing that I thought was very interesting that I don't know that I'd always thought about was that if you've gotten an email from somebody that you want to share, get the permission of the person before you forward that email to other people. And I think that's something that we should all think about and we should all do. And then one of the things they talked about after they loved their new superintendent, as we do, and he was there, and they said now that they have this mutual respect, they are working together very well. They are focused on their roles, the board on their roles, the superintendent on his role. They reach for consensus among everybody. There's been a total organizational change. The culture has changed in their school district. The community has taken notice of that. And they have strategic thinking. The main thing they talked about was, though, communicate. That was the most important thing, was communication. I'm not going to talk about all the things I went to, but I did go to another thing about devices. And because I know that we are interested in doing that, and this happened to be our neighboring Henry County. And they have done the thing with every kid having the iPad or a laptop, but I think that was pretty much iPads. And the one good thing about this is they have kind of worked out some of the problems, so we can, they know some of the problems, so we can kind of get over that because they've already been through them. But some of the things that they pointed out with kids having mobile devices is that the children are excited about reading things on these iPads as opposed to having textbooks. 70% of the parents said that they're more likely to do their homework if they do it online. It makes learning more fun. Parents work with their children more when they're working online. No more worksheets, Lord, just like the school board was saving forest. I tell you what, I mean, think of all the paper that can be saved by doing this. And the book bags and what it does to poor little kids' backs carrying all those books. So a couple of things they gave advice was, talk to the parents before starting anything. Before you start anything, talk to the parents. And you need to change the way we're teaching. I mean, we need to change our mindset about this. And one of the challenges they had was that they really needed to beef up their internet service to be able to accomplish this. So we can learn from their mistakes because they are now very happy with this, and it's really a good thing for the kids. So I went to other things too, but that's enough. Thank you.
Dr. Newsom?
Okay. I also attended several sessions, but what I was most impacted by, one of the sessions that I was most impacted by was a session on the head and theme of improving the performance of low-performing students in schools. And these were schools that had reversed the trends in spite of the challenges and obstacles. And some of the key characteristics that I think we would probably all expect were that high expectations were there for all students. And one of the concepts was very interesting was that for students that have in low socioeconomic situations was not to set high expectations but gaudy expectations. That when you set the gaudy expectations, they're typically raised to the high expectations. I thought it was a different concept, just overkill on what you expect for students. The other is teaching quality and teacher efficacy. making sure that teachers felt good about what they did, beyond the salary kind of things that get in the way sometimes about the kinds of teachers that you have, but teachers that when they are respected, that they have great professional development, strong leadership, and the value for what they do tend to perform better for students. I think that was an expectation that we would want to hear. Also using data to inform instructional decisions, making sure that the data was available so you could chart student achievement. Now, one of the non-sessions that I enjoyed was the general session on the great debaters. This is a gentleman from a school in Roanoke City. And what he did was he got all the students who had problems and challenges. And he began to use some of the talents that they had in spite of how they were performing. And I think as time went on, those students were speaking to 700, over 700, 800 students in the student body, trying to get in that club. Some of the things that they had to do would have no suspensions, no referrals, and students would fight to get into that great debaters. They actually took this group of students to Wiley, Texas, where the famed story of the great debaters took place. And those students had a chance to walk that campus and just sort of feel the energy of the original great debaters. And so that was, I think they said they had a club of about 30-some students, and they couldn't keep students out of that club. The students were so excited about being a part of that. Increased their reading skills, their presentation skills, their language skills, but most of all, they increased their behavior. And so I was very impacted by that particular presentation.
Very good. The only session that I mentioned very briefly is a session I went to that was presented by Frederick County, Virginia. That's up in the Winchester area. They, because of some rapid population growth, were looking to replace a aging middle school with a newer, much larger facility. And so they took plenty of time up front to really think about what kind of structure best meets the needs for the middle school age students. And what they came up with, I thought, was really interesting. It's almost a pod-like approach, where there are something like 6 pods in this 3-story building. And in each pod, you have a large open central area that has some tables and some reference materials and whatever, a lot of electrical jacks for all the hardware that they use. And then off to the sides from that are smaller, more traditional classroom size spaces, but they're not totally walled off. In many cases, they're at least half glass, so a person out in the main part of the pod can see what's going on in each of the various rooms around the pod. And they have tried to utilize a lot of small group pull-out, as well as large group instruction, project-oriented things. They found that as long as it's fairly well contained to one pod, allowing the kids the chance to move around and get with a group for a while and then go over with a larger group and then do some private studying back in a corner, that things have really gone well. They've been extremely pleased with that kind of a design. I cannot imagine that we're going to be designing a new middle school anytime in the very near future, but when the time does come, I hope we'll have enough time to really look around and consider all these other kinds of options that are being utilized elsewhere. One little tidbit from that session, someone asked them how large the school enrollment was, and their response was, oh, it's just a typical size middle school, 900 students. A little bit large by our standards, but they considered that just a typical size middle school. So,
I have one more thing.
Yes, indeed, please.
I did want to mention to y'all that Dr. Newsom's brother made the front page of the brochure, and he's the superintendent in Chesterfield County, and his board got the Board of Distinction as well, so he got his picture in here twice. So I just wanted to point that out. The other Dr. Newsom.
Right. You can take that as a challenge if you Well, the primary purpose for us spending some time this evening reporting on the Williamsburg trip is to make sure that folks understand that school board members, just like teachers and administrators, need continuing education. And our professional group here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the Virginia School Boards Association, provides those very opportunities, and we find them to be very, very helpful. They certainly keep us, in many cases, from getting in legal trouble, and they give us new ideas that other people have already tried out, and save us some of the difficulties of trying to create things from scratch. So I'm very glad that so many of us were able to attend that. That then brings us to our next agenda item, which is a reminder of upcoming dates. It's really along the same lines. Next week in Washington, D.C., the Healthy Initiatives Conference. I believe that the superintendent and Reverend Wilson excuse me, will be representing us in Washington for that event. Then there's already been a brief mention tonight of the VSBA Capital Conference in Richmond on January 27th and 28th. Several of us are going up for that one. That's where the VSBA professional staff will give us the latest update on what's happening with various bills in the General Assembly session that just started yesterday. And we will have opportunity then on the second day of that conference to visit with Delegate Danny Marshall, who represents us in Richmond. Then the next item on the list has been postponed for now. We had scheduled a joint meeting with Danville City Council for January 30th, but there's been a scheduling conflict arise on that, so it'll be sometime in early February, we hope. Then February 2nd through 4th, there's the National School Boards Association Advocacy Conference in Washington, which is similar to our Capital Conference in Richmond, but this is with the federal government and the members of Congress. And I don't know for certain who all is going. Reverend Wilson, I believe you're probably going to that one? All right, anyone else? Dr. Campbell? All right, so we'll have two folks there pitching our concerns at the federal level. Then in the middle of February, February 13th through 15th, the AASA National Conference on Education in Nashville, Tennessee. Our superintendent will be over in Nashville for that organization's conference, national conference. And then in early April, April 5th through 7th, the National School Board's annual conference in New Orleans. We have not finalized everything on that, but I know several of us are looking at making that trip to New Orleans this year. And we look forward to seeing what's happening on the national level in our professional organization. And I will remind you, particularly on that one, that Liz would need some indication pretty soon on who's planning to do that, so she can go ahead and start making the travel arrangements. And back on the Capital Conference coming up in Richmond, January 27 and 28, she also needs final details on travel arrangements, who all's going up Sunday, are there some carpooling possibilities, those kinds of things. So please verify that with Liz at least by tomorrow. All right, are there any questions about the upcoming conferences? All right, then next item on our agenda is a reminder of meetings. First one is tonight for the School Bus Safety Recognition and the Principals Appreciation Week. Then January 13th through 15th, Leadership for Healthy Communities. Does someone want to say anything about that activity?
Well, it's an activity where people are horning in on this matter of obesity. It's in 1 person out of every 3 is overweight. And it causes all kinds of health issues. And the Black Caucus of the National Super Bowl Association is sort of orchestrating, and of course, it's a grant coming through the school board for this particular event, and looking forward to it, and I'm glad that Dr. Newsom and being invited, not because we overweight or anything, but because Dr. Newsom has so much to offer, and it'll be a reciprocal thing. He'll be taking something to them and bringing something back. And it's a training event, so that if there are training events coming up locally, these people who've been trained will go out and lend their assistance to it, because the thing is very serious. And people come from all over the United States and understanding to this particular event.
Very good. So that is the Healthy Initiatives is the other name for that?
Right.
Okay, I didn't realize that initially, that we were talking about the same thing. Very good. All right, and then are there any questions or comments on the other items listed there? All right, then we'll move on to our January 2014 public notice. That's out there more for the public than for us, but it's always helpful for us to have a place to quickly check our upcoming dates as well. Are there any questions about any upcoming items on the public notice? All right, then we will move right along on that. And I do believe that that has gotten us to where we're going to be ready to go into closed session for a couple of special things. So shall we take a recess?
Do we want to do roll call?
Oh, yes, let's do the roll call, please.
Mrs. Hall. Ms. Hughes.
I believe I said enough. Happy New Year.
Okay. Dr. Paul Hamus.
It has, as you have heard, been a pretty busy winter so far, with a lot more still to come. And it's an exciting time of year with budgets on the horizon and everything else. We certainly appreciate everything that's going on in the school buildings and the central office and transportation, bus barn, and maintenance shop every day of the year, as things are being accomplished by our dedicated employees for the good of the children. We thank you for those efforts, and we applaud your commitment to each and everything that you do. Thank you.
Mrs. Bolton.
Yes, I want to congratulate Melody on your achievements, and we're so happy to have you here. And everybody that's responsible for this wonderful excellence in financial management that we heard about tonight. It's just great. The audit reports, and this Hughes audit report was wonderful, and Mr. Atkins for all that he does, and all of our bus drivers that get our kids to school safely every day. We appreciate all that you do. Thank you. And the principals, we recognize those too. That's right. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Bryant.
I want to thank everybody who's here for anything they had to do with making this school system receive all of its awards and recognitions. And even though I haven't had the opportunity to say too much tonight, I want to thank everybody for being here, being involved, and wish you a happy new year, and hope the school year just gets better and better. Thank you.
Dr. Campbell.
I hope that everybody would have a wonderful 2014, and to all my colleagues the same. I had the opportunity today to attend the adult education career program that was called the Capstone Project presentation, and it was a wonderful experience. For those that have not received your GED, you have the opportunity to certainly receive it. And if you are interested in that, you can call 799-6471. They will be more than glad to assist you. And Reverend Wilson, they did have a peach cobbler today. And so that was just an added incentive today. Thank you so very much for inviting me. Last but not least, President Obama has called also this month Mentoring Month. And so for parents, churches, fraternities, whoever, whenever we can help a child to become better, we need to certainly do that, that they can receive the best possible education and be women and men in our society. So let's do all we can to make this happen. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Reverend Wilson.
Yes, I concur in all that's been said, especially the commendation given to our co-workers and all persons who do anything for this division. You're doing a good job. And unfortunately, in this new year, I haven't been able to talk to many of you yet, but all of you I've spoken with, you were saying, and you expressing one way or the other, that you're ready for the challenge. There have been some changes, and may have been some difficulty in some instances, but we know who we're working with. And as you said, and as you expressed, you are ready for the challenge. We commend you for that, what you have not done, and we know what you will be doing. And with that, continue having a good year. And once again, to my colleagues, have a good year, a good new year.
And we skipped over comments from Mr. Spencer.
I don't have any.
And Dr. Newsom.
As we enter this half of the school year, I just want to commend all of our students. We just have so many bright and exciting opportunities playing for our students. Our students are just wonderful. Every single day they go to school excited about learning. And of course our staff, I'd like to give kudos to all of our leaders, principals, and teachers who committed every single day, and to our parents who partnership with us on a daily basis, and our community partners. Would also like to bring the attention to what's going on with our website. The board had a presentation a little bit earlier at the work session. As people will go by the main building here, they'll see our new logo up on the main building and in this building that speaks to innovation. And that's what we are, a innovative learning community. Would have you know that we keep an analytics on the use of our website. And in the first 4 days, over 3,000 visitors visited the website. The visitors look at about 4.5 pages. I don't know how you have a 0.5 page as a half a page. And we know that that the average visitor on our website for the first 4 days stay over and visit for over 5 minutes. That speaks volumes. And in line with something that Ms. Hughes said about wanting to attract quality teachers to continue to come in and view what's going on, so far we've had over 1,000 people look at our job site. And so with the website being up over about a week and have 1,000 people looking at that page, and I'm thinking about that they're trying to look at coming into our system. In terms of the interaction part of the Facebook and Twitter, we know that our kids are tweeting pretty well. And so they knew about the school closing before many of the parents. And they tweeted that the schools were closing, but it's a way to get good news about kids, good news about what's going on, and students highlighting their accomplishments. So we really appreciate what's going on, and we expect a lot more to be said about our website in the future.
Thank you so much. This will be showing my age, but I can't help but thinking how tweet it is. I think we need a recess.
I move that this meeting of the school board of the city of Dan, Virginia be recessed for 10 minutes.
Second. All right, we have a motion in a second to take a 10-minute recess. Any discussion? Then let's call the roll, please.
Ms. Hughes? Yes. Dr. Paul Hamus?
Yes.
Reverend Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Bolton?
Yes.
Ms. Bryant?
Yes.
Dr. Campbell?
Yes.